I feel like Kingston's naturally going to be a draw to me. If I was looking at wholesaling or flipping, I'm going to want to get in and out fast. Because honestly, I'm not sure if I trust this market, just based upon the data that we discussed today. And I'm not naturally going to be wanting to do a lot of buy and holds in Kingston now that I've dived deeper into the data. What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Kingston, Ontario real estate market. So let's first pull up Kingston in case you're not familiar with it, but it's right along the 401 corridor, and you can see on my Google Maps here, we'll just zoom out a little bit to get perspective. But essentially, Kingston's uniquely positioned, kind of halfway between Toronto and halfway between Ottawa as well. So again, if you didn't know, at one point in time, I think back in like the 1840s, it was actually the capital of Upper Canada. These days, a lot of its employment is from the public sector, so government employment and things like that. We'll get into that later in this video, but the point of today's video is really just discussing the Kingston real estate market in 2020, what's going on, has it been impacted by COVID, and a little bit about what do we think is going to happen in the future as well. So let's jump into it. First things first, let's talk about the population projections for the city of Kingston from around now, 2020, through to 2046. So I've got this amazing report that you can find at cityofkingston.ca. It's a 182-page report, extremely robust, tons of information in there, but let's just discuss what's important. So I'm going to save you guys from having to read this giant report, and really this is the one quote I want you to take away. Under the base case scenario, the city of Kingston is forecasted to reach a population of approximately 140,000 by 2031, and by 2046, the city's population is forecasted to grow to 146,000. This represents a total population increase of 18,600 between 2016 and 2046, and an annual population rate of 0.5%, or 620 persons per year. Comparatively, the population for the province as a whole is forecasted to increase at an annual rate of approximately 1% during that time. So that means the city of Kingston is expected to grow at half the growth rate of the province of Ontario. Now, I don't like that as an investor. In fact, I'm always looking for cities that are expected to outperform their general regions as well as the province or state that they're in currently. So the fact that Kingston seems to really be tapering off from a growth perspective is not a strong indicator for me as a real estate investor. Now, let's move on to the employment sectors for the city of Kingston. Now, I've got the Kingston Economic Development Corporation's website up here. Overall, City of Kingston, both your development economic website as well as your city website, I actually hate them. They're really difficult to navigate, really hard to find any real information, but at least I was able to find this one graph that provides some good information. So when we're looking at the residence industries of employment in the city of Kingston, and even that seems a little bit hard for me to really parse out what that means. Residence industry of employment. Does that mean that they live there and work there? Or if they're commuting somewhere else, are they included in this survey? I can't really tell. Again, I don't like it. But if we are looking at the biggest sectors, the first one we're going to see is healthcare by far and social assistance, over 10,000 jobs in this sector. The next big sector is going to be the educational services with 8,400. Then after that, we're going to see public administration, so the city of Kingston. We're going to see retail. And then finally, rounding out the top 5 is accommodation and food services. You notice anything missing? Like producing anything, manufacturing anything, really doing anything other than government and education and health? Yeah. It's kind of sparse from an industrial perspective. I actually didn't know about Kingston until I really started diving in and doing some of my research on the local city and what's going on from an employment standpoint. But if we actually jump over then and look at the top employers, we're going to find something else quite interesting about Kingston as well. Unfortunately, the most recent data I could find for the city of Kingston is from 2014 in relation to their Economic Development Corporation. But let's just look at the top employers according to 2014. We had the Canadian Forces Base in Kingston, which had 9,600. Then we had Queen's University at 7,000. We had Kingston General Hospital at 4,100. We had the Limestone District School Board at 3,100. We had the Correctional Services of Canada at 2,300. We had the City of Kingston at 1,200. We had Providence Care at 1,175 and the Hotel Dieu Hospital at 900. Yeah, sounds like a lot of public sector employment, doesn't it? We didn't really name too many private companies. It's all government. oriented employment there, which is interesting. Now, if government spending continues to balloon, which it seems like most westernized democracies are likely to do, maybe Kingston's really well positioned to, keep milking that gravy train from the government. But overall, I don't like the fact that we don't see a large manufacturing or tech industry or really any sort of private sector employment. It's shocking that we have to essentially get into the lower levels here. And now we're getting into DuPont, which is Invista Canada now, StarTech, Calian Group, Empire Life Insurance. And so now we're starting to get into some employers that I'm actually glad to see in Kingston. But again, when we look at their footprint compared to the public sector, it's a really small footprint. And in fact, if you overlook retail, all of a sudden it feels minuscule in regards to the employment sector for the city of Kingston. I think that's something we need to be aware of as well. So far, the two strikes against the city of Kingston is one, very low population growth. The second one is pretty much all public employment. So again, there is a risk that the government is forced to do some cutbacks, maybe because they did some crazy stimulus spending in 2020. Kingston could get hit hard. As well, the fact that it's such a big post-secondary education city, right? You've got Queen's University, which has a massive impact on the local economy. If we were to see this slowly drift away, the Canadian consumption drift away from post-secondary education and people start going into the trades, or less people start signing up for university, again, because of Queens, Kingston could get hit really hard because, Queens is a major draw for the city of Kingston. But enough talking about generalities in regards to Kingston. Let's dive into some of the local statistics for the Kingston real estate market. So I've got the Kingston Area Real Estate Association's website up here, and we're looking at the September 2020 numbers. So when we're looking at residential sales activity in Kingston, we can see a large increase in September over the previous 10-year average. And this is something that we're seeing in a lot of Canadian cities as they come out of COVID-19, self-quarantine and isolation and social distancing. Then if we move on and we're looking at new listings, we can see we're right in line with the 10-year average. Then if we're looking at residential active listings, like a lot of Canadian markets, we can see it's really starting to dry up, which means that supply is not keeping up with demand. And then if we look at residential months of inventory, there's been a consistent trend since 2014 with months supply of inventory going down in regards to Kingston. Now, this is a strong indicator that you should see prices continuing to increase because as demand is outstripping supply, it's just a natural economic balance. And in fact, when we're looking at the Kingston market throughout 2011 all the way to 2020, again, it's a very consistent climb up. And in fact, around 2016, we start to see it even hockey stick a little bit. But certainly, ever since 2020 started, the Kingston real estate market's been on absolute tear. Now, this is interesting because I'm essentially shitting on the real estate market in Kingston due to a lot of data, but the actual sales data looks very pleasant for Kingston, and if anything, it appears that we're going to continue to see prices increase. So, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing for a real estate investor looking to break into the Kingston market? Well, it's really going to depend upon your perspective and the niche you're focusing on. Now, right now, because of what I see overall in Kingston, it's not a market that I'm aggressively wanting to jump into for buy and hold. Because like we said, population growth is going to be really slow compared to other regions, meaning you're likely going to miss out on some of the growth other regions are going to benefit from. Secondly, it's almost all driven by public employment. So if there's ever government cutbacks, if the government ever has to tighten the belt because of some of their crazy stimulus spending, again, Kingston could get hit hard here. And then finally, because of its post-secondary education, Queens being such a big draw, both from an employment perspective as well as just a population perspective, because I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I believe over 30,000 students attend Queens, and I think there's one other post-secondary education place there in Kingston. But because of that, again, this has a massive impact. Queens is essentially the same thing as Western here in London, but the difference is Western is in a city of London, Ontario with a central census metropolitan area of like 500,000, where Kingston's like 140,000. So again, that means that Queen's University even has a greater impact on the local economy than Western would here in London, Ontario. As I was hinting at, from my perspective, based upon the data I've reviewed, I feel like Kingston's naturally going to be a draw to me if I was looking at wholesaling or flipping. I'm going to want to get in and out fast because honestly, I'm not sure if I trust this market just based upon the data that we discussed today. And I'm not naturally going to be wanting to do a lot of buy and holds in Kingston now that I've dived deeper into the data. But that's just my perspective as an outsider looking in. Are you currently investing in Kingston, Ontario? If so, I need your opinion in the comment section down below. Jump in and share your perspective. What investment strategy are you utilizing? What success rate or what rate of returns are you seeing? And are you going to continuously invest in Kingston throughout the foreseeable future? And is any of the data I mentioned worrying, or is there something I'm overlooking? Maybe I've misread or misinterpreted some of the data, but from my perspective, it doesn't look that rosy for Kingston compared to other markets in Canada. I'm naturally going to be more drawn to markets like Brantford or London, Ontario. And again, I am biased because I'm from London and the vast majority of my portfolio is there. But when I look at the data between these two cities, it seems like a no-brainer. But I'd love to hear from you if you're investing in Kingston, or if you're thinking about investing in Kingston. Let us know in the comment section down below and share your perspective. That's it for today's video. I hope you guys got value from it and learned a little bit about the Kingston, Ontario real estate market. If you did, smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you're new to my channel, because if you didn't know, less than 50% of you are subscribed to my YouTube channel, and it just hurts my feelings. And I would love to get to 100,000 subscribers so I can get that silver plaque from YouTube. Yes, it's only for my ego, but my ego desperately needs that silver play button. So if you guys can subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. As always, sharing is caring. So if you share this video on social media, I would greatly appreciate it. And feel free to tag me on Instagram or Facebook if you're sharing on those platforms. Otherwise, again, just share with us your perspective on the Kingston market if you're locally investing there. And otherwise, let me know what other markets would you like me to deep dive in regards to the Canadian real estate market, because I love doing these little research projects and I hope it provides you guys value. I'll see you in the next video.